Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Lighthouse sessions. I'm excited today. We have Anna Boulier with us. Anna, why don't you tell us just a tiny little bit about yourself, and then we're going to dive into a deep conversation about what you do.
Okay. Well, hi, everyone. I am excited to be here. I live in Northwest Georgia, specifically Cartersville, which is called Museum City. And we were recently named Best City by HGTV. So I come from a really cool town. Um, but it was not that way growing up. It's only been cool, at least in my opinion, for the last 10 years. So, yeah, born and raised Georgia girl.
I love it. And we can't argue with HGTV. If they said you are a cool town, we have to give them two thumbs up, right?
Exactly. Exactly.
All right. Well, a shout out to the good folks of Carter. I'm a museum guy myself, so that's nice to know that there's. My wife and I did the Ferris Bueller's tour of Chicago, and we hit every museum we could. And for some reason the locals aren't as amused by the show as the visitors. So
I can understand that, but the museums here are a big hit. We have Western Museum, the booth, Tellus Museum, which is science, rocks, all sorts of stuff, dinosaurs, History Museum, and then the Car Museum that just opened recently. And all of them are Smithsonian accredited.
oh well, that's
Like
very good to
big
know.
stuff.
Yeah. I love it. Well, the reason you and I are connected, I saw your profile on LinkedIn, and I thought, this looks fascinating. But honestly, seeing your picture, your banner of me and Barley, a celiac tale. I love puns, and I have somebody near and dear to me who is celiac. So let's talk about how you came to be doing what you're doing today as the CEO of Gluten Free Adventures, and then we'll get into the other things you do. But how did it progress that you are now helping people with invisible or hidden disabilities?
Well, I was diagnosed with celiac disease in 2017, and the severity is so bad that it had to change my entire lifestyle. I had to relearn how to eat, what not to eat. And then I found out that I have the more severe side of it, where it's not just ingesting. I can't touch and hug somebody who's eaten a biscuit. And I live in the South. That's a big deal.
It's a huge deal.
Yes, I can't walk into bakeries. I can't go grocery store shopping at a lot of the shopping centers because they bake in-house. And so I was working full time at a big um, carpet mill in our area and was a designer there. And in 2020, I was so sick, I left, started my own design business and was doing that. But as I've gotten more into networking, more with not just sitting in my house because it's COVID, I realized interacting with the public was making me very sick. And one of the last times that I got glutened off of a prepackaged salad, I was in the ER crying and screaming and was like, I'm done. I can't do this on my own. And that's when I had seen someone with their own gluten detection dog who would alert when they detected gluten. And that started this whole journey.
I love it. And for the record, I think we underappreciate our furry friends.
Yes.
Yes, they're amazing companions. Yes, they can be great pets. But I also think that we're just starting to understand what they can do as service to humans. So let's talk a little bit about the service dog, because that part was fascinating to me, and it makes sense. They are known for their sense of smell, and I'm guessing their sense of smell is strong enough to detect it before you get in range of it being a threat. Is that?
Yes. Yes. Dogs are amazing. I've actually seen a gluten detection service dog in action. There's a lady who has one here in my hometown. And I had gone to an event and she and her dog were there. And that was the first event where I was able to eat everything that was offered that was gluten-free and know it was safe and not get sick. And this dog, Duncan, he would raise his paw if it wasn't safe. And it was amazing how the interaction with everyone who saw her and the dog, they immediately knew it was a service dog. They immediately knew there was a health risk. They were so much more attentive and aware and accommodating than I've ever had an experience just going in by myself.
Yep.
And
I
that
would
was
second
eye-opening.
that. I would
Yeah.
second that because my wife is celiac and she gets a lot of rolled eyes and shoulder shrugs and, oh, I don't know, it's probably okay. Do you want it?
Mm-hmm.
No, I don't probably want poison. Thank you.
Yes. And celiac disease is not a food allergy. It is actually a disease.
Yeah.
But even peanut allergies can kill you if you have a severe enough reaction. So just the restaurant staffs are not educated, and just being dismissive of something that can be life-threatening is a scary reality that we have to face. So I started the journey, did research, found a group out of Arkansas, and they are currently training my Barley. She is a white English Labrador. She is officially 7 months and 2 days old as of today. And they started her actually last week with the gluten detection. Up until this point, she has just been learning how to be a very well-behaved dog in public and how to interact when there's distractions, when there's shopping carts, when there's noises coming from all sides. They've been working with her and training her and getting her ready for gluten detection. Gluten detecting dogs are some of the more expensive because of the intensity of what they have to learn. And it's typically an 18 to 24 month process to train and get the dog ready to go out in public and be a service dog.
I love that. And I think it's amazing. I'm diabetic, so I know there's diabetic service dogs.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's just up to our imagination what these dogs can be trained to do, because they are incredibly bright animals. And, they've got senses that we don't, so they can be very useful.
Mm-hmm.
Now, random question, and this is just the weird way my brain works. How prevalent is gluten in pet foods?
It's in most all of them. But the great thing about the group that I'm working with is that they are aware of that, and they have made sure that Barley will only be eating gluten-free dog food. So when I'm able to take her and she becomes my official dog, her dog food won't make me sick.
And that's the thing. I think when you are around somebody with celiac, you ask a lot different questions. It's with my wife, the waiters and wait staff will say, how much can you tolerate? There might be a little. Is that okay? Or
Mm-hmm.
my personal favorite is, we separate everything, but we use the same cutting board. Is that okay?
Yes. Yes.
And the answer is hell no and yes. So I love that. And first of all, I can't wait. You're gonna have to come back when Barley's present. We'll interview Barley as well.
Oh, she would love that. She would.
What breed is Barley? Sorry, I'm a dog lover.
White English Labrador.
Ooh, I don't know if I've seen a white one.
No, they're a little more rare. They're actually a calmer type of Labrador. They run about 60 to 70 pounds, 80 if they're a boy sometimes. But beautiful, beautiful puppies and dogs.
Yeah. My favorite is the German Shepherd, just because I had one growing up. My next favorite is the Springer Spaniel. My third favorite is the Labrador. So,
well, I've only had small dogs. We currently have a Dachshund Bandit. They're the two little guys up there. And Pepper is my sister's emotional support animal. And she's a Maltese. And we've always had tiny dogs. So Barley is going to be an adjustment. But that safety and that presence that she has, it'll make all the difference.
Yeah. And I think that's the thing. People are more accepting sometimes of dogs than they are of other humans, which that's another conversation, another show. But let's talk about how, okay, so first of all, and this is what I love about entrepreneurs. Life gives us lemons, and we make lemon sherbet or cocktails or whatever. We make something with the lemons. And I'm guessing that for you, celiac disease was not an immediate gift. However, I see already, in the years since, you're now finding ways to serve others. So your gift is in how you serve people. So what was the moment where you went, maybe this is a business? How did the business evolve?
Well, when I realized I was going to have to fundraise for this service dog, and Barley's going to cost $50,000. And I felt like the Lord was saying, you can't do that and do a full-time job. So I let my design business go to the side. And then like a week after that decision, I felt like the Lord was saying, let's turn this into a nonprofit and help a whole lot more people. And that's where my nonprofit Access Unleashed came about. And it's basically helping people with all sorts of hidden disabilities, everything from chronic diseases to food allergies to PTSD, everything. And they really tie in together because, to be quite truthful, fundraising for a service dog when you're not a nonprofit, it's hard. People don't want to support because they can't get that tax benefit. And, I've got family and friends who will donate, but no one who is able to produce that amount of money I need. And getting larger sponsors really depends on having that nonprofit status. So I want to help others be able to fundraise for their service dogs, a medical necessity, without the headaches and the troubles and the frustrations that come on doing it on your own, basically.
Well, and I think that's the big thing about most treatments, diseases. Diabetics, we spend a lot of money on being diabetic. I mean, it is not a cheap condition.
No.
And then celiac, it's not just the cost of different food. It's not, bread and then gluten-free bread. It's the price points are different.
Oh, very much.
But it's also the lifestyle changes that, and I feel like that's probably, this is my little pet peeve about traditional medicine. You're usually being treated by somebody who studied your condition as a textbook, and they're like, okay, try to do better. I got dietary lessons from somebody who was extremely underweight. She was full-grown adult and she weighed about 80 pounds. I'm like, I'm not taking your advice on nutrition because you don't look healthy.
Yeah.
And nothing against her. It was just she didn't actually understand what diabetes is. And I'm sure you get a lot of well-intentioned advice from people who read a book about gluten allergies and sensitivities and celiac before. And, they lump you all in one bucket because isn't the sensitivity an allergy and isn't an allergy celiac? No.
And, doctors still, the medical field still says it's only through ingestion. It's not through skin contact. But I'm living proof that that's not true. And one of the beautiful things about Access Unleashed is I'm finding resources for people that will help all sorts of disabilities. I'm in contact with a woman who's going back, getting certified to be a organic health coach to help people with their food. She also has celiac even more severely than I do. So she understands firsthand what it means to have to change your entire eating style. And she wants to help others achieve that, not just for celiac, for any sort of health condition. So the nonprofit's allowing me to connect with other people who not only help me in my life, but can take what they've learned and apply it to a whole bunch of people who could use those resources.
I love that. And I think that's the key. Nobody cares about celiac as much as somebody who has it. So I always tell people, rather than waiting for somebody else to give you a solution, get together and build it yourselves. Because I think that is, my wife is a master of Google and all things research. She can tell you, if we're traveling, she maps out where we're going to eat and, just little things. And this is not a shot at IHOP, but, they have some gluten-free stuff, but even their eggs, they sprinkle a bit of their pancake mix in.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, it could have been gluten-free, but you make it. Yeah. So there's certain places it's just not safe to even walk past, let alone walk into. So
yes, I've learned all sorts of tips and tricks when traveling, because it's not just pick up and go. It's research, looking up restaurants. A lot of times I'll join the local Facebook group. Most everyone has a gluten-free St. Augustine, gluten-free Destin, and then you get it from people who actually live there. And so there are definitely ways around it. But if you don't know all of that, learning it, especially when you've got this diagnosis and your life is changing dramatically, it's a lot to hit you at once.
Yeah. And I think that's the thing. Like, I have hay fever and I have allergies, and, that's a different spectrum of diseases. And people are like, oh, just get over it. I'm like, I can be brought to my knees by a field of sunflowers, literally begging for mercy, or death. It depends on the day. But,
yeah,
I think when you find people who also have what you have, you can be much more practical. And I do love, there's a lot I don't like about Facebook. No offense, Mr. Zuckerberg. But the thing I do like is those community groups. I think there's 3 different ones, which is kind of funny in my town of Edmonton. For whatever reason, they're competing for attention. It's like, why wouldn't you collaborate and say, let's pool our resources?
Yeah, very much so.
So how close, this is just a practical question, and then we'll get into the actual business of what you do, but how close can you get to a bakery before it becomes a problem for you personally?
If I can smell it, if I smell that bread, I know that I'm in trouble.
Which here we have, like, pretty much every mall in Canada now has a pretzel place, a cinnamon bun place, and then, God bless Subway, but they all have Subways in their food courts where they bake everything in-house. So you probably can't even go into most shopping malls.
No, and I don't really go into anything big, but like our Kroger's here, I can't go into it. So there are several grocery stores that are just completely off the list, and others where I can go in certain sections and avoid other sections. So it just depends, and it's a very rough learning curve to figure those things out.
Yeah. So do you carry something like an EpiPen for that, or is it straight to the hospital?
No, it's straight to the hospital with a migraine. I'm usually screaming when it's bad enough. So
okay, well, I feel your pain. I've had more than my share of migraines, and yeah, they're not fun. And to somebody who's had a headache, bugger off. We don't want to hear you whine. A migraine is a very different beast.
Yeah.
It's like saying dogs and wolves are related. Yes, they are. One is gentle and cute and licks your face. One will bite your head off, literally.
Yeah.
So sorry, rant alert. But anyways, so let's talk about how you started the business of, well, you help you're a nonprofit, which to me, you're still a visionary, you're still an entrepreneur. So what does that look like? How has it evolved? And more importantly, I guess, how's barley going to change the way you do business?
Well, being a researcher and a lover of research and spreadsheets and all of that stuff, when I decided to do this nonprofit, it was all in, figuring it out. And in a lot of ways, it's been like setting up my design business. It's having a business plan. It's creating all of your branding materials, creating your logos, figuring out how you're going to market, who is your target audience. All of those things are similar. The only difference is, in some ways, starting a nonprofit is even harder than a business, because you have to be very transparent, and then you have to go to the government to apply for that nonprofit status. And that is, the application for that's 30 pages of very intense questions and things. So I'm still in the application process. I am looking for, I've reached out to someone local about a fiscal sponsorship so I could go under their umbrella while I'm getting set up, but still be able to run the nonprofit, bring in money under that tax exempt status. And if that goes through at the end of this month, I'm ready to start programs, basically start running with everything. The goal of Access Unleashed is 3 pillars, as I call them: education, empowerment, and fundraising. So I will be able to start with empowerment, which is a monthly education night. And then education is, I want to go out into the community and talk to churches, schools, businesses, restaurants, and say, this is what it means to have a disability. These are the rights that they have. This is what you need to consider when someone says they have a peanut allergy, when they have celiac, if they have seizures, if they're autistic, and really start educating everyone on what that means. And then educating the difference between a service dog and an emotional support animal, rights, what legally can happen, what legally can't happen. And then just expanding. I want to start in my area, but eventually I want this to be a national program. And then ambassadors through the fundraising group will be able to go in under us, fundraise. They'll get the tools to speak and educate their peers and their community, as well as how to set up a fundraiser for different types of things, how to have a social media presence, how to do all of those things, while understanding that most of these people who have disabilities are going to have problems with speaking in public, and helping them empower themselves to state what their needs are and get what they need.
Yeah, I love that. And I think, I love that you approach it as a business, because one of my little side things, I've been an entrepreneur pretty much my entire life. I've struggled in employment because I'm different and I don't want to fit in. But when I look at nonprofits, one of my challenges is, and I've met a lot of wonderful people who run them, they think that they, the founder, need to be broke and poor, donating everything to the business. And one of the things I really like is getting local businesses, and I'll throw this out there for you, Anna, but I'll throw it out for anybody else listening. One of my favorite ways to fundraise is to find ways to collaborate with local businesses and sort of do awareness raising while donating. And, Amazon did this a long time ago, and unfortunately they discontinued it. They called it Operation Smiles or something like that. Mm-hmm. And basically, if, they started it with the intention for schools, they'd send an affiliate link home for each school, and the kids would all get that link. So when the family did what they were doing anyways, shopped at Amazon, Amazon then sent money to the school. Mm-hmm. And I feel like there's a lot of affiliate programs out there, and if not, there are some opportunities for nonprofits to create them. In your case, the obvious one that comes to my mind is the people who make celiac friendly dog food. Mm-hmm. And I'm sorry, that sounds just ridiculous, because the fact that dog food has gluten in it bothers me for many reasons.
Mhm.
It's like, wait a minute. By the way, I have a local steakhouse my wife can't eat at because the steak isn't gluten free. Like, oh, for God's sakes.
Oh, also, the red-headed fast food restaurant
Yep.
everyone
Whoop.
knows and loves,
Yep.
their grilled chicken is not gluten-free. Plain grilled chicken is not
Wow.
gluten-free.
I know there's quite a few places where even their French fries aren't, and it's like
Most everyone they grill, they
same
use
that
different
and
oil. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, that's the problem with that.
And that's the thing. I mean, I worked at that red-haired franchise that you mentioned, and we get people in who, I wasn't aware of diabetes back then, but they'd come in and say, I need no salt, and it was like, oh God, do you know how hard that is? Like,
Yeah,
there's salt on everything.
yeah,
We have to remove it, so to speak. But then they'd order a large Coke, and I'm like, okay, I'm confused.
yeah, yeah,
So, anyways.
yeah.
But the I'm going to give you a little nudge here, Anna, because you're really bright, and I really think you'll take it and run. Most nonprofits operate from a place of scarcity, and they're going out and begging for money, whereas you've got a business brain, and I think you can find a way to add the value to your people and to the business community. And by bringing that together, I almost see it like I forget. There's like a buyer's club,
Mhm.
a restaurant, a grocery store. They can get a, Anna approved safe. Well, actually, let's be honest, a barley approved,
Yes, yes.
a little sticker or something they can put in their window saying barley can come here. I think they'd be willing to pay for that. And in exchange, you're sharing that a certification with your audience.
Yes, that's a great idea. As when I was a designer, and I still help some local nonprofits. And in our area, it seems like a new nonprofit's popping up all the time, but they all have that, most all of them, not all of them, but a lot of them have that scarcity mindset. A lot of them have that two people, husband and wife, friends, and they're not treating it like a business. It's more
Yeah,
of like a club, or just something that they're not really planning to have it be stabled and structured to
yeah,
last. And I've run into many people who I asked at the beginning of this in November, you start a nonprofit, what are you doing? And then when they met with me a couple weeks ago in May, they're like, you're further along, and I've been running this for 2 to 3 years.
yeah,
And it's because I recognize that you got to treat it like a business.
yeah. And for whatever reason, there is this mantra out there that either I do good or make money.
Mm-hmm.
And I've talked to quite a few entrepreneurs, and it's fascinating. And I think I'll have some connections for you.
Yeah.
The fascinating thing is once they get successful in their business, most of their time and energy goes to the charity their business supports.
Mm-hmm.
And it fascinates me because I grew up and it was either you're rich or you're kind, and I'm like, can't you be both?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but the people I know, they've built very successful nonprofits based on sound business principles. And I think they look at it, and the argument they give me is, we do this so that we can help more people.
Exactly.
And again, for you with celiac, if you help 10 people and you go broke in the process, you didn't help anyone because you didn't feed yourself, you didn't survive. And I think I have a lot of friends who run nonprofits that are their passion, and then they're killing themselves in a day job because the nonprofit is not feeding them. And don't get me wrong, I don't think that executives of large nonprofits should make millions, but
Mhm.
we do have to be competitive with the public sector. But for a small nonprofit, being transparent, I still think that you should get paid what you're worth in the marketplace.
Yeah. And I agree with that. My goal is, the future goal is for this to pay me as an executive director and run it, have a board, be submitted to the board, but us also bringing in money to support a staff, to support marketing efforts, and being able to bless others. And I don't think that they're mutually exclusive, but I do think that they are not always something that's seen as a possibility.
Well, and that's the thing. You're clearly a person on a mission, and you do what you do. It's very near and dear to you, literally life and death. So, it's a natural thing for you to reach a hand out to somebody behind you saying, here, come join me on the journey. That doesn't mean that you're helping people, therefore you shouldn't make money. It's a fascinating thing. And, I've had a few guests who've talked about monetizing what they do. And the comments, some people are like, oh my God, I can't believe you used the word monetize. And I'm like, hey, we all got to eat.
Yeah.
We all need somewhere to sleep. But the aha moment, and Bob Berg is one of my guiding lights in this. He's the co-author of The Go-Giver with John David Mann. He talks about adding value, and the more value you add, the more you're worth to the world. And this is going to be a little controversial. I might get some hate mail out of this one, but when you have a disease or a disorder or something, I'm actually not joking. I'm going to write a book called Congratulations, You Have Autism. And I don't want it to be a woe is me. Autism is a condition and I'm limited by it. But the reality is people need to understand this is you before, this is you after. And if you want, you can stay on the path you were on before and you're going to have the migraines and whatever. Or if you want to get rid of the migraines, here's the path.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of value. And I tell people this all the time. If you've got some sort of disability, disorder, other difference in how you are, you can actually teach new people to that world how to be and how to move forward.
Yes, very true. And most everyone, if they don't have some sort of disability, illness, they know someone close and dear to them who does.
Yeah.
So you might feel isolated and you might be isolated, but you can find community who truly understands. And that's what we need, is to find that community. And if you can't find it, make your own.
Yeah. And for what it's worth, we've learned I have a sensitivity to celiac, to gluten, and it's annoying, but it's not the end of the world. But it's made me very aware of what my wife has to go through, because I can go to a restaurant and go, well, if there's a little in there, I'll have a bit of a headache, and I won't feel well for an hour or two, but I'll be fine. Whereas she's out for a day or two and it ruins her day. So it's that awareness. And, believe it or not, I think the best businesses and nonprofits, in my opinion, are built on teaching others how to be and how to make decisions. Like for you, I mean, you literally had to throw out everything you knew about diet, nutrition, everything. And don't even get started on the environmental stuff. I mean, let's just talk about ingesting for a minute. You had to learn a whole new way of understanding that. Most people aren't as diligent. They're not going to do the research that you did. But, if there's a little, and I'm going to undersell it, but even a little coloring book or just a little cookbook so that you can teach kids, don't bring mommy bake sale good items from school, things like that. Like it's amazing how education can be, first of all, powerful and spread your message. And it can be a foundation for keeping the money coming into the nonprofit.
That's so funny that you said that. I actually created a children's book and a children's activity coloring book about barley's journey. And it has sections of foods that are safe, how
Yeah.
to interact with the service dog, what it means to have a gluten allergy. And eventually I will be writing other books for, someone with MS, someone with PTSD, just really highlighting and educating young.
Yeah.
So that's really the key to it, educating.
Well, for what it's worth, I have a young friend. He's, I think, 18. He's an incredibly young guy. He writes children's books. He writes and illustrates them himself. And basically, he tries to show how we can be more inclusive with certain disabilities. One of his characters, I think his name is Kevin Bacon. He lost a leg in a farming accident. He's a pig, and his friends learn how to help him navigate without his leg. But stories are powerful, and honestly, I can see Barley having her own cartoon series. Like,
yes, I could too. She's my goal is to make Barley a celebrity presence. Like when they see her, they know who she is, what she does, and they are excited to see her out and about.
And they know how to behave when they see her.
Exactly. Yes.
That's the part you want to make sure they know that up front.
Yes. I've been told when I finally get Barley, I have to have a big party in my hometown where people can come and interact with her that very first time. And she's just going to be a dog. And then after that point, she's a service dog and you don't get to do that. But for her homecoming party, she will just be a celebrity puppy.
Oh, that is adorable. I want to see video, and I assume you've got a blog where people can follow Barley.
Yes, meandbarley.com.
meandbarley.com. Cool. And I love the ironic name because Barley is clearly not gluten-free in the title.
I tell everybody she's the only gluten I'll ever need.
I love that. She's the anti-gluten, but it's kind of cool.
Yeah.
And it's funny, my brain, and sorry, this is usually a one-sided conversation where I ask you 1,000 questions, but from my wife's perspective, gluten-free cookbooks, gluten-free variants. We have a terrible joke in our household. Okay, I'm a dad. I tell dad jokes. My two favorites: when my wife orders gluten-free, then the waiters always turn to me and say, "Are you gluten-free as well?" And I'll say, "No, I'll take her gluten, please. It's my favorite flavor." And yeah, she rolls her eyes every time the waiters, but I do it not to make fun of my wife, but so that they remember, oh yeah, this one's gluten-free. Even when they're touching mine, they're going to go back in the kitchen and go, okay, he's the guy who wants her gluten, therefore hers is gluten-free. So yeah. I try to make my wife's, discomfort a little less uncomfortable for her, but it does help because they'll always come back and go, oh, here's your plate of whatever, extra gluten. And then, ma'am, here's yours gluten-free. So
yeah. That's smart. Very smart.
I'm weird and I'm childish, so I like to find humor in things that, diffuses the situation, even though it's not funny, because I know what the aftermath is. But, for my wife, there's always she finds a lot of amazing recipes online. And then most people say, well, how do you adapt to gluten-free? I don't know. I'm not celiac, so I don't care. Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. And yes, I know grandma's recipe, you want to maintain the integrity of it, but I feel like Alton Brown was a Georgia resident at one point.
Yes, he is. Uh-huh.
Okay, so he's one of my all-time favorite people. I love his science in the kitchen. I don't care what he does off screen. I don't know anything about him as a human, but I love his science when he sits down and he breaks down, here's what the recipe is, here's why it is, here's what, literally he breaks it into building blocks. This will make it bind, this will make it rise, this will make it fall. I'd love to see, and maybe that's an AI tool, translating grandma's recipe to gluten-free or gluten-friendly or whatever we want to call it. I don't know all the terms. I just know there's a lot of them. But honestly, God, it's a whole brand of barley approved items and apparel.
Yeah, I definitely have the t-shirts that I sell as a fundraiser, and I am slowly trying to take over the town with them.
Yeah.
But these are, while they're barley centric, I want the people to be able to change it for their dog and be
Yeah.
able to expand the process.
Yeah.
But barley will definitely be the figurehead, the superstar, the superhero.
Sorry, but the top dog.
Yeah, the top dog. Most
Sorry.
definitely.
I know you were going to get there, but that's where my childish brain went to. It's, but you think about it, every community could have their version of barley.
Mm-hmm.
And, it could be the local, you got the mayor everybody kind of knows about, but have the local top dog that,
Mm-hmm.
kind of like the mall Santas, they all report to the real Santa. You can have
Yeah.
the barley approved local affiliate, and
Yeah, that's the plan.
I can see that on a clothing label, and with the only gluten I need sort of tagline is a.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, that's the key is, how can you fundraise, raise awareness, and it's interesting, but fundraise has the word fun in it. Why isn't it always fun?
Yes. Well, I think there's such a stigma with money. And honestly, it's hard to ask people for money for my service dog, even though it's a medical necessity. But I find it so much easier to say, hey, I'm also funding for my nonprofit, because it's not just about me anymore. It's about helping others. And I think that's part of the difference is, where is your heart?
Yeah. And the problem is, most people are like, oh, I can get a dog for $1,000. You're getting a really good dog for $1,000, but that's a raw material. It's not trained. It's not.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to guess that most of the training for barley is how to ignore inputs. Because, any dog I've ever met, they're sniffing their ears,
Mm-hmm.
their eyes are looking around. They're very aware animals.
Yes, and Barley's been trained. She goes to construction stores, she goes to craft stores, she goes to supermarkets, and she's being taught, you focus on your trainer, on your owner. But it's a constant reaffirming, reteaching thing, and it takes typically 18 to 24 months for disability dogs, that for diabetes, for smell, anything like that. The ones that are more for physical handicaps and mental are a much shorter period. So, and that covers cost. If you are with the trainer and you do it, if you have someone else train, like I can't train Barley to detect gluten.
Yeah.
So that all plays a factor. And in my research, over 60% of the people who would qualify to get a service dog don't consider it because of price. And that's just wrong.
Yeah, it's elite and wrong. Random question. What's the strangest place a service dog has detected gluten? What's the most hidden random place for gluten?
Well, funny story. I was talking to the friend at that event with her dog. She is sensitive to gluten. She has MS, but she notices her MS gets worse when she eats gluten. So she trained her dog. And I said, we were talking about things, and I brought up that gluten is in makeup, most makeup.
Really?
And I said a specific brand, and she's like, I wear that all the time. And
Wow.
She went home and had her dog check all of her makeup, and that was the brand that she triggered. The dog actually said there was gluten in it.
Okay, something that's going to make my wife's head explode. Thank you for that.
Yes. Oh, toilet paper.
No.
Products, straws. You have to be very careful.
Wow.
Your wife and I need to chat.
Yes, I'm going to make sure you two connect.
Yes.
And you and I, full disclosure, there's a cookbook coming in your world, because if my wife has her way, she'd write a cookbook, but she's always like, oh, nobody would read it. I have a feeling you two would have fun building it. So.
Oh, yes. And I help authors publish their books.
All right. Well, and for what it's worth, I'm a ghostwriter, so I know a lot of authors, and some people are right to work with me. I love it when I hear somebody else writing coaches. You're my people, because I am one of those quit whining and get it done guys. I don't know that that's coaching. It's more,
It might help some people, but not everyone.
Yeah, if you want your butt kicked across the finish line, I'm your guy. If you want gentle nurturing, don't bug me because I don't got it. So you're going to meet a bunch of people that need nurturing, and they've come to me, and it's like, nope, Jeff's not the one. Last question for you, Anna. How can people get in touch with you? How can they learn more about Barley and your journey together? Because now I'm invested in when Barley comes home. I want to see the pictures and the video.
Yes. So I have meandbarley.com is specifically my journey with Barley, her training and all of that. I have accessunleashed.org. That's the nonprofit and all of the stuff that will be going with it. You can find me on LinkedIn at Anna Boulier. I'm also on Facebook and Instagram. Eventually we'll be all over, but LinkedIn or Facebook's probably the best right now.
Now, this is a moment you've invested a lot in Barley. Do you want to shout out to your trainer and just let people know who your trainer is, or is that hush hush?
No, I can. The specific trainer is Elizabeth. She is a sweetheart. She sends me updates every week, and it is with the Snowy Pines White Labs is the name of the group. You can go on their website. I go on their website a lot because they have their most recent puppy videos of the litters that have been born. So that's kind of like a secret indulgence of mine that I just told the whole world. But they're amazing. And then the children's book that I've written has actually an image of her training Barley and things like that. So they're very involved and wonderful.
You're doing amazing things, Elizabeth. Thank you. And Anna, it was amazing to chat with you today. I just want to thank you for being a guest on my show.
Thank you for having me. I had a wonderful time.